Roll call roll. I'm here, Stanley Olive. Torres here, present. Bill Reef, present. You got a quorum. Any public comments?
No, Councilmember Holland, we have not received any public comments.
All right. Agenda. I'm trying to talk about message. The first thing on the agenda is AB 26-01. Let's talk about parking.
Yeah, let's talk about parking. Thank you, Councilmember Holland. The city's back again with another extension of the interim control that was passed by council last year. You'll recall, Councilmember Holland, that we initially entered into this interim control to be able to reduce by half most of the parking requirements for most of the uses in the METC zone. The idea was that the city was experiencing and hearing some feedback from the community that expansions of established businesses and also establishing new businesses were met by challenges mostly related to the requirements for off-street parking in the METC zone. This council passed an interim control, which is good for 6 months, to be able to reduce by half the parking requirements for most of those business types in the METC in an attempt to encourage an establishment of new businesses and allow for existing businesses to grow and expand. We also extended that interim control in July of 2025 to be able to allow a little bit more time to observe the effects of the interim control. And so here we are 6 months later now with the interim control about to expire. We still haven't really seen a manifestation of the interim control play out in the METC. We were kind of expecting by now to see the new white building on Washington, get a couple of tenants in there and enjoy the benefits of the reduced parking, or maybe see a couple of other businesses grow in their footprint. We haven't yet. It seems that we still have the ability to learn a little bit through the interim control and are requesting or seeking if council has an interest in extending again the interim control for another 6 months. Understanding that we have a new council and a new mayor, staff also felt as though previous conversations with the broader council about even broader parking reform in the city beyond just the METC might be something of interest for a legislative priority in 2026 for the broader council to take on. Before we have an understanding from the whole council of whether that's an interest, we thought that at least extending the interim control to be able to monitor its effects and be able to afford some relief to the businesses might be a good segue into broader conversations with the council about more parking reform holistically in the city. So this would ask for CGA to push this item to the study session on the 21st with a public hearing on the 28th for action to be taken at that public hearing.
Black people are being like this, so there's not much interest in what's going on, or what?
I don't think so. I've been to like 2 years worth of CGA meeting. I don't think I've ever seen anybody from the public attend the meeting. Sure, yeah. Yeah, we absolutely do. And they're publicly advertised. The materials are publicly available. I still haven't seen, I don't receive any comments in response to any of it so far. Scott Larson and I used to attend the Chamber of Commerce meetings in town as well. And, a lot of this is feedback that we hear at those meetings. It's been probably half a year since I've attended one of those, but there is an outspoken sort of a disdain for the degree of parking demand on businesses in a generally built out downtown environment. This is something that is really moving through the state legislature as well. The effects of that right now that come out of the state don't affect Ording because there's parking reform that's demanded by state law, but it applies only to cities of 30,000 or greater. So Ording's insulated from needing to comply with those laws, but there may still be thinking that in a generally built out downtown environment that there is no opportunity for expansive additions of off-street parking. Particularly, a lot of cities will take the position that perhaps you could take a vacant lot and turn it into an off-street parking lot, but that's not exactly the greatest and best use of the land in terms of tax income generation for the community. Um, there are provisions for temporary uses in Ording's code. I don't think that off-street parking lots are one of them. But there are provisions. We could always look at exploring, it's an act of council to be able to change the code to allow for temporary use like a parking lot. We don't have a lot of vacant land in Ording, especially in the downtown area. And so, I think that the one example I can think of actually is being turned into a parking lot for the purpose of serving the high school, and that's at the Prince Singh's property. They're adjacent to the Shell gas station. So we have the opportunity, I think, in the future to create code that would allow for that kind of temporary use. I don't think that it's supported in the code right now, but we can explore what that might look like. Uh, I think that the thinking more generally now across the state is people come to enjoy business through means other than vehicles. I think that another thing that's relevant, especially in a downtown environment to think about, is that oftentimes people visit a downtown, they visit multiple businesses in one stop rather than just come. So requiring each business to provide adequate parking for vehicles that may be effectively sharing the use of their stall among multiple businesses that they'll visit in a downtown outing, suggests that there could be need for less parking than is otherwise established. Parking code in general in the planning realm, it was created generally in the time of the automobile's creation, and it's largely remained unchanged. Thinking now is that oftentimes if you've ever been up to, for instance, the Walmart in Puyallup South Hill area there, where what else is over there? The Home Depot, I think. I mean, this is spans and spans of empty, unused parking. It's usually used like 20 parking stalls for an overnight semi truck to park through and sleep at night. Like, just is that the best way to be able to use the land? Is kind of the contemplation at hand. Sure.
Full council, what I would say is to, actually take a look at it. Do you actually want to go ahead and put it to the study session on the 28th?
So the interim control will expire at the end of this month, and so we could allow it to expire. Then there would be, no relief able to be afforded to any businesses until we took a new interim control action later down the road. Or we could, move this forward in January for another interim control extension. That, of course, only allows for the parking relief to be in place for a 6-month period. At which point we might consider during that time, like I said, more broad parking reform. To see if there's other things like maybe the schools don't need to provide as many parking stalls. Maybe assemblies don't need to provide as many parking stalls. Maybe even residential areas don't need to provide as many.
I think from a staff perspective, we wanted to offer council the option of continuing these controls that would allow for more parking in the downtown area to be business friendly while we continue to massage the code and figure out what the possible permanent restrictions or code might end up looking like.
Yeah, so as I was reading through this parking, right over here, Bucky's, so repair shop over here. Would they be in violation right now with the card of the? Yes. Or
No, they wouldn't be. Bucky's has been a real problem in recent months for their on-street parking violations because they will overflow their parking onto the Vanscoyuk right-of-way. State law allows for vehicles to be parked on the right-of-way for 24 hours. And so we chased after that from a code enforcement perspective relentlessly. And what Bucky's grew to understand is that if they move a car every 20 hours and flip it around the block, then they're insulated from any sort of code enforcement or legal action taken from the police department. And so that's been kind of part of the contemplation with, what does the eventual downtown look like in a revitalized image of Ording? If we were to, we have, future plans that indicate that the master park plan is going to include parking infrastructure improvements in the main park area right here and along Van Scoyoc. And so do we just wait for those improvements to come along and then the problem will kind of fix itself? Or should we look at should we look at requiring or instituting new laws in Ording that prevent the ability for parking or limit the parking on street on Van Scoyoc or other downtown right-of-way areas? Like if you go to Leavenworth, you'll probably see that there's, metered parking on the streets that allow for you to park for like 3 hours and then you have to pay for it or risk it getting towed. Do we want to look at something like that or just outright prohibit it or let it lie? These are all sort of exercises that we talked about in the last year. But maybe now is the time to kind of put a little bit more effort behind those thought processes. Right now, they're just piling all their cars onto their property, and so they're compliant with the law and with the code. No, it means that you have to have a required amount of parking per bay. That facility is non-conforming to that requirement. It was established before the code that required that amount of parking, and so they don't necessarily need to make a showing that they have that much parking for each bay. What they do is, take on more business than they have parking for, and so it basically just looks like a jam-packed parking lot at their lot, and they just move vehicles in through the bay, and until recently have been kind of, piling the parking along Van Scoyoc in addition to their lot. Sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. It's not Buc-ee's. You're right.
Is it Ording Automotive now?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. True. Very true.
Thank you.
None of this is relevant to Buc-ee's. It's the Ording Automotive shop, I think. And are you okay with us taking it to the study session on the 21st?
No,
21st.
and 28. You're right. 21, 28.
21, 28.
You're there.
Yep. Okay. Okay. That sounds great. Okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
That go to, meeting dates. I do believe, the date is fine for me, but I think until we pick the new committee members, and, the committee might change. So you might want to hold off on the dates and time until.
So this one is just for council meetings.
Oh,
Yeah, so we just wanted to be able to plan for our council meeting dates, which we do every January. And so there's a couple of wonky things that will happen as there are every year. The AWC annual conference is held June 23rd to June 26th. That would be the date of a regular meeting. In prior years, to allow for the council to attend that conference, we've made our study session a combined study session regular meeting. So we just wanted to put that out there for you guys. An August meeting date of August 19th, 2026 at 9 a.m. to pass the payroll claims and warrants if council still would like to take a recess in August, new council. So I figure that at the study session is an opportunity for the council to discuss if they do still want to take a recess for the month of August. Setting a budget retreat date for September of 2026. The staff recommended date is Saturday, September 19th. It usually only fluctuates by about a day each year. So we would hold that budget retreat on that Saturday at 9 a.m. And then November, there's a couple of dates. Wednesday, November 12th is Veterans Day, so City Hall will be closed. So moving that Wednesday meeting to a Tuesday on November 11th. How about we say on the 10th, sorry. November 11th is Veterans Day. We would move it to Tuesday, November 10th. And then if there's the appetite of the council to go ahead and move that meeting right before Thanksgiving, so it's on a Tuesday and not the Wednesday right before Thanksgiving night. Those are the only changes looking forward that staff are recommending. Happy to bring this to the study session for the full council to discuss. Okay, perfect.
Next one, CAB 26-3 finance.
Yeah, so one of the council members had asked that we just add this to the CGA committee. I know it's very early, but this is just kind of a placeholder to get you all thinking about the finance committee and the benefit that there might have been from having that finance committee last year, and whether council still would like to hold that or reestablish that finance committee beginning in 2026. So just simply something to consider while you're discussing committees and things like that. We just wanted to make sure that it didn't get lost in the shuffle. Yep, and I think that from a staff perspective, there was a lot of benefit to the finance committee last year. We felt like a lot of the early questions were answered over time instead of at a budget retreat, which would then span 6 or 7 hours and things like that. And it allowed the council to definitely see things kind of as they're happening as well. So from a staff perspective, it was a very successful venture for us, and we're happy to continue if that's the will of the council.
Who serves on that committee right now? I mean, how many council members?
So we always keep it at three council members to avoid a quorum. Otherwise, if there's 4 of you, we have to notice that as a regular meeting and allow for public attendance and, have it in here and do things like that. So to keep it as a committee, we have 3 council members. Last year, I believe was it you, Councilmember Holland? No, Councilmember Sproul, Councilmember Hogan, and Councilmember Tracy, I think were the 3 council members. And we met twice a month in the conference room, and our finance director Tammy over here just went over all of the financials and the budget forecast as we were looking at it and starting to prep, because you're kind of never not prepping for the next budget, even though we're not going to be passing that till the end of next year. We're still kind of looking at it every day as we're beginning to prep for this next budget cycle. And that allows those council members to kind of be in the mix and ask the questions and look at things as they're happening. And then it allows us to kind of know what direction council's thinking on certain items. And it also allows council, she does provide monthly financials at study sessions, and council's always aware of our financial position, but it kind of gives a more in-depth view for those that want to be a part of that committee.
They'll turn out a list and say, okay, what committee would you like to be on? Then it's the deputy mayor will decide, okay, you on this committee, you kind of express what you would like to be. But that should come out of the meeting.
Yeah, so in the council rules of procedure as they stand, the finance committee is not listed in it. It was kind of an ad hoc committee. Happy to explore changing that structure if that's the will of the council. I know that Mayor Drennan has some other ideas. I know he's met with you guys and has some other ideas as to council committees and how that might look going forward. So that will be presented at the next meeting when we start talking about council committees and forming. We'll need to elect a deputy mayor to serve just for the month of January, since Deputy Mayor Koenig is no longer here. And then we'll also need to elect a deputy mayor to serve starting in February, because that term is February 1st to the following January. So couple of those things. Once we have a deputy mayor, then they'll work with the mayor and one other council member that volunteers their time to form those committees, and they can start massaging that idea a little bit about finance committees and other ideas that Mayor Drennan might have, that you guys may have chatted about in your meetings and things like that, as what a council committee meeting might look like going forward.
That's good.
Yeah, that will be at the next week's meeting. We have put our packets out on the Fridays before the council meeting on the next Wednesday. So Danielle and I, you'll either get an email from me, you'll get an email from her, sometimes both of us. It'll have a packet. We'll print one for you. It'll be available in your mailbox so you can pick one up. If you prefer a printed packet, just please let me know and we'd be happy to print one for you. And we can show you where the mailboxes are at and everything like that if you haven't seen it already, to be able to pick up your items. And typically the packet doesn't change unless there's something emergent that has to be revised into there or something like that. But Friday by 5 p.m. is always the goal, to get that packet out to you.
Any other question?
Lots of information, but you'll catch on.
D, AB 26 charter park.
Yeah. So and Kim and I may tag team this one a little bit because I know she's been involved in a little bit of this process, but for the two new council members, this is a contract for design of the charter park, sports courts, and pump track. And I'm not sure if you know where that is located, but where they're building the new houses down here, what was used to be called the farm area. There is, the city was awarded a grant of funds from the Washington State Recreation and Conservation Office to expand part of that area, with sports courts and a pump track. And so city staff are ready to begin design and engineering work, as well as the cultural resources work that's needed to be done to do that project. So 95.87% of the cost for the sports courts project is reimbursable through the grant. So that's an amazing grant that we got, and 50% costs of the pump track project are reimbursable. And so we have a scope of work that's been prepared by parametrics for the design of the sports courts and pump track projects. And per the city's purchasing policy, we're bringing that to you for approval before proceeding with the agreement.
Pump track is bicycle.
It is. I don't know if you've ever seen one, but they're very popular. It's kind of the hilly, we sort of have a makeshift one out here with dirt hills, but this would be a paved pump track. And it's been something that has been brought up by citizens and was included in our main parks master plan as an item that citizens of Ording wanted to see happen at some point here. And so, yeah, it is definitely a paved pump track where people can ride their bikes or skateboards or scooters or whatever they want over through that area.
That's 128,000 parametric. Is that their price to do that?
It's the design of that. So we have to go through an engineering firm to be able to get the design needed of the sports courts and the pump track. And so that $128,000 is reimbursable through this grant at those percentages that I listed to you before. But they're all reimbursable grants. The state never just hands you over the money. We pay up front for it. We submit all of our invoices and they send us the money back.
Yeah, I was familiar with the pump track when I looked it up and I looked at it. It looks pretty cool.
Yeah, there's several cities around that have some successful ones, and I was kind of surprised to learn in my research of the pump tracks that there's actually a pump track community that does events. They'll pick a pump track, they'll come to a city, they'll explore riding over that, have a little pump track tournament, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word.
See how it worked out? I mean, it looks like a lot of kids. I don't think I'd try it.
Well, I was hoping you were gonna.
Can you put something in the council package on study session, just to mention it so that they?
Oh, yeah. No, this has to go through the full council approval. So we're bringing it to you. If it's amenable to the three of you, we'll move it forward to the study session for you guys to discuss, and then we'll finalize it at the last meeting. So We're just asking for approval to spend that money since it's out of the purview of our authority.
No. All right. Last thing on the item, AB 26-05, bank signature.
Yeah, so new changes mean we need new signatories on our bank account. So Mayor Penner needs to be removed from the bank account. We need to add Mayor Drennan to that, and we need to remove Scott Larson. Have we removed anyone to this?
No. Yeah. For the bank and looking from what we require and change.
So we just want to get the bank account signers up to date with to reflect the new staff and mayor.
Got them next week.
Yeah. It is something we can do next week. If that's the will of the council, we can certainly bring this forward and get that taken care of right away. Sure. No problem. We'll bring this one forward to the next meeting, and it should hopefully be a quick discussion, and we'll get it taken care of for you.
How do you go about changing the rules so that when people go out of office, they no longer are signatories of the thing?
Yeah, so we're bound by state laws a little bit. So our agreement with and the separation of Scott Larson and then the mayor kind of happened all in a short amount of time. So typically what would happen is if I were to leave, I'm a bank signatory, at the next meeting, Tammy would present this item to you to remove me from that. With the holidays and the way the meetings went towards the end of the year, I think it kind of got just lost in the shuffle.
Now we should change it in the laws of the city or whatever, that once you are no longer an officer, you no longer signatory to the bank.
I don't know if we can.
Yeah.
With like the local government investment pool, they require a resolution. They change it without a resolution time. So it has to go through the process. Unfortunately, we can't like speed up any faster. We bring in all the rules, bring it to committee, and then bring it down.
So can we bring it to the committee at the end of the year instead of wait till the beginning of the following year?
We can do that.
Yeah.
We should be bringing it to committee as soon as we know that somebody.
Right.
And then.
Yep.
On that date, or
Right, well, we bring it to committee, and as soon as the resolution's signed, that's when the last time that they'd be able to have. As soon as we get it to them, it takes them about 24 hours.
so we can put a date on when you send it in for.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be for that exact date. I think the resolution is for the date we put on paperwork.
Yeah. So if we have.
I think we should change it so it works that way instead of.
We can look into it. We obviously are bound by the rules of the state of Washington, so we have to follow the RCWs, but we can see if there's a way. If there's an instance in the future, and I understand your concern, we could always look into having a special meeting just for that purpose if we needed to. No, absolutely. No, I understand. Yeah, it's a concern. Sure. So staff can definitely do some research into that and see what exactly we can do and if there's any kind of wiggle room. But I do agree with you that going in the future, say if I were to decide tomorrow that that's it, I'm out of here, you could hold a special meeting to change the bank signatories quicker. It's a 2-day noticing period instead of doing it on this cycle of 3 meetings a month kind of thing. If that's the will of the council, we can definitely discuss that and then kind of have you all decide.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but I think it's a very valid point. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Any other questions? Good. All right. Next one, it's number 4, approve the minutes for December 3rd. Okay, so they read them on. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Minutes passed. Thank you. All right, action item, roundtable. Any final comments, concerns?
I think Danielle could just recap what we have moving forward if you'd like her to.
All right, so starting with extension of parking interim control, that's going to be moving forward to study session on the 21st for council consideration. 2026 meeting dates will also be moving to the 21st study session. Finance committee 21st study session. Charter Park Sport Courts and pump tracks moving to the 21st study session, and then bank signatories are going to be moving forward as a standalone on the 14th.
Anything that we can answer for you while you're here, or happy to do that offline if you want to have some questions. Want to meet with one of us? Happy.
Right now, we're just temporary.
Sure.
Because the people we came in for.
Correct. So a little back history if you'd like. CGA, Community and Government Affairs, is a lot of policy items. It's a lot of things like you're seeing here, rules, procedures, policies, parks, things like that, contract approval. And then we have a public safety committee, which is pretty self-explanatory. It meets with the police chief and some of the staff, and it's a lot of public safety related items, police items, contracts for the police department, new equipment, staffing, things like that. And then our public works committee is a lot of public works projects, capital projects that are being done around the city, things like that. So that's kind of the three standing committees that we have at this time. You'll get a new assignment at some point once the deputy mayor and whatever council member selected to serve as to help select that along with the mayor figure out what direction they would like to go with these committees, and then you'll get a new assignment. These days and times are not written in stone. It's kind of what it's been like for the last 6 or 7 years, but happy to change it if it doesn't work for someone's schedule, change it to a different day. But they are always held, if we continue in this kind of capacity, the first week of the month, in order to move items to a study session and to a regular meeting without disrupting that flow.
And that will come up on the next meeting. We'll decide, we'll put the map on there and say, okay, this is where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's, it may look different, it may not. I think that's a decision for the council as a whole. Yep.
Good. Anything else, Chris?
I don't have anything.
Meeting adjourned at 9:35 p.m.
Thank you so much.
And I'll appreciate staff being there.